First Things First is sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Oh, good Tuesday morning to you guys. Welcome to First Things First.
Morning,
I'm Jenna Wolf. I got some hair. A late Tuesday morning, I got hair in my face. I started
Great Tuesday morning, Jenna. Don't worry, your hair's fine.
I know the NBA started tonight.
We're all a little frazzled. Oh, yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah, I got good news for Brian Westbrook coming up in NBA picks for his Philadelphia 76ers. I got bad news for Chris Broussard and his beloved Clippers. We got all that coming up. What a great day to be on television.
By now,
so
you know Brian Westbrook is here. He's in for Brandon Marshall. Kevin Wildes is here smiling. He can't wait to get to our top story. We stayed up late to watch what we thought was going to be a blowout.
Is straight.
We were wrong. Monday Night Football. Guys, this was the get-right game for the Steelers, right? This was the game to get their mojo back. This was the gimme against a Bengals team they'd beaten 11 straight times. But once again, the Steelers looked flat, and once again, Big Ben looked old. Flat and old is a terrible way to go through life. Bengals pulling off a stunner in this one, leaving Pittsburgh in serious danger of finishing second in the AFC North. Who would have thunk? Here is a very bundled up Ben Roethlisberger.
Do you right now, in the month of December, truly feel 100% in your arm?
Well, I don't think anybody that plays this game at any level, at any position, I should say, whether it's week 1 or week 16, feels 100%. So, no, I would say that I don't feel 100%, but nobody does right now.
Wasn't I right? I mean, how cold was that press room? He had like 16 layers on, plus the hat. Nick, for the Steelers, that's 3 straight losses now for the team. I'll say it again. I said it last week and the week before. We thought could maybe go undefeated. Is it now time to press the panic button?
Oh, it's absolutely time to mash that panic button. But before I get into why, I have to address what everyone's thinking this morning, and so I'll be the first one to do it. A hearty and sincere congratulations to the defending Super Bowl Kansas City Chiefs for essentially cinching up the 1 seed with 2 weeks to go. Good job, fellas. You're just at home hanging out. Get the 1 seed, get the bye. But now let's go micro to macro. Let's start with the game last night. That was a shameful performance, and I mean that literally. The Steelers should be ashamed of what they did, particularly offensively in the first half. In the first half, the Steelers had 8 drives. 5 went 3 and out. 2 ended in a fumble. 1 was an impossible 10-play, 17-yard drive. I don't even know how the math works there. That ended in an interception. And then in the second half, they clawed back into it. They're down 17-10, and they go 3 and out. They get it back to 24-17, and the defense lets Ryan Finley, the defense when it was 17-10 lets Ryan Finley go 9 plays, 80 yards. Ryan Finley, you could be a big-time college football player or college football fan not be familiar with Ryan Finley's work. So both sides of the ball, unacceptable performance. And that's the micro. The macro, Brian, is this. As I mentioned, the 1 seed, see you later. The Steelers are underdogs at home next week to the Colts. If they lose that game, that means week 17 against the Browns is for the division. The division. It's in play. The Steelers are the 5 seed this year.
Crazy.
The 5 seed. They're guaranteed not to be the 1. They're highly unlikely to even be the 2. And it's in play. They fall all the way to the 5 seed. This is even the biggest Steelers pessimist, like our friend Colin Cowherd, I don't think saw this type of fall from grace for this football team, Brian.
Yeah, Nick, you're absolutely right. The Steelers have struggled over the last month of football. And here's the truth. They're struggling at a time where it's important for a team to be getting better, getting ready for the playoff run. Let me just give you an outline of a season from a player's perspective. August and September, you're getting in shape and developing your identity, trying to figure that out. October, you're perfecting that identity. And now November and December, it's all about the playoffs. It's all about putting wins together so you can build that confidence for the playoffs. And really, that's where the Steelers have just struggled. In the last 4 games, they haven't scored more than 20 points offensively. And that's because they have no deep threats. They have no ability to run the football. And when you're talking about Big Ben, the most important position on the field, he has struggled. He actually has looked just like Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph last season, the number 2 and number 3 quarterback for the Steelers. I mean, just look at the last 2 games, Jen. I mean, this is just the truth. He hasn't had over 190 yards passing, 3 interceptions, and 3 touchdowns. That's worthy of the second and third position when you talk about quarterbacks. Kevin, here's the bigger picture, and I think Nick just hit on it. They just have the Colts left as well as the Browns. The Steelers run the risk of going into the playoffs on a 5-game losing streak. That's no way to go into the playoffs. And to me, that also spells probably an early exit to the playoffs. So, Kevin, it's just hard to see that the Steelers can figure this thing out in a short period of time.
Yeah, so I want to drive home how terrible the Steelers were. Even though this team is on the rise and getting hot, and some people have, picked them, say, you know what, be careful about this team. They're not tanking. The Steelers have been worse than the Jets, Brian. If we look at the graphics, the Steelers have only scored 16 points last 4 games. So this is absolutely brutal. It's a brutal stat. It's a brutal stat, and they're not tanking, for the record. They are not trying to drop down to the 22nd pick. So, Brian, here's a take that we just saw, or it's a question. It's not a take. We just saw Drew Brees get hurt, sit down, come back, shake the rust off, and did pretty good in the second half. Is the fact that Big Ben, his arm, he said not 100%, but he feels like he's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Should Mike Tomlin say, you know what, dude? I know this isn't like a normal injury, but it's just progressing. Let's sit you down, get you fully healthy, give you just a Ben Roethlisberger bye week so we can hit the playoffs with the Big Ben that we want to see in those first 11 games where we're putting up almost 30 points a game.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because there was a week earlier in the season where Ben didn't practice at all, and then he came out and had a great game on Sunday. So maybe as an older player, that rest is certainly more important than practicing. But at this point in the season, Kevin, you need your team to be together. You need your team to come together and say, everything that we're doing is not right. We have to figure it out. Ben has to be much more accurate. His receivers have to catch the football. But when you talk about winning the game at the line of scrimmage, that offensive line has to play much better. They're losing in the trenches. They need to find a way to help Ben, and the way to help them is to establish the run game. They have to find a way to run the football. Right now, they have no ability to run the ball.
Yep. And James Conner out last night with that quad injury. They could really use him. Before the game, check this out. Juju Smith-Schuster doing his typical dance on the Bengals logo. I'm sure he thought, hey, there's no way this could be a bad idea. Bengals safety Von Bell disagreed. He called Juju's dance disrespectful. He said the only way to get him back is to hit him. So what'd he do? Oh, he hit him all right. And he hit him hard. Bell unloaded on Juju in the first quarter, forced the fumble. Juju, that's bad juju. And if anyone knows about juju, it's got to be you, buddy. So, Wilds, I ask you, is it time to retire the pre-game dance when Juju got hit with bad juju?
Look, that's a great question. So he's in a tough spot here, Nick. He needs to either keep doing it and double down, or just stop.
Lean
but if he
into
stops, that it looks terrible. But here's the thing. Everyone's like, oh, the old people don't want to have fun. It's disrespectful to the players. It's disrespectful to the other team. It's not disrespectful to your grandma who doesn't love TikTok, even though oddly grandmas are popular on TikTok. Like, hey, grandma, look at this. So, Nick, I think he probably needs to double down. Unfortunately, he's probably going to get lit up again.
So here's listen, let me tell you, this is a gambler's fallacy. Which is, if I lose a bet and I just double what I bet and I lose again and then I double that, eventually I only have to win one time and I'm even. And that is true. But sometimes you run out of money before you hit that winner, and then you're just bankrupt. At this point, Juju's got to walk away from the table. I'm all for fun. I'm all for celebrations. I'm all for dancing. And while I understand that while this is an end of a segment capper, because it's Juju, if this were Odell and he had then fumbled and his team had lost 3 in a row, I'm pretty sure we would have come in at 4 in the morning to start wall-to-wall programming just about that. I get that. But it is, Brian, the disrespect angle of where he is doing the dancing that I think is putting a figurative target on his back, and I think amongst players is going to be seen as in poor taste, and it's tough to do when you're fumbling and you're